Hello, this is Tom McDougall. We've been we started a series on the kingdom of self. We talked about what the ego was and what it wasn't, and then in the second one we talked about the development of the embryo and before birth and right after birth, and how the embryo is the embryo when it's born. That's a traumatic experience in itself. Uh, it's been a nice warm place, and now it's pushed out into the world, and depending on how the condition of the mother and the pregnancy and the relationship the mother may have had with her husband or the lack of one, all have impact on that embryo, and uh, it can take on it doesn't have emotions, but it can take on messages that it puts words to later. It doesn't have words in the body. So as a young child runs around the house. Uh, when it was in the mother, it was me and my mother are one. Then it comes out and it's still me and my mother are one, but the world got bigger, and so everything that the baby sees, once it begins to be able to see well enough, it considers itself. And this is the time when we as humans are probably the closest to being connected with everything that is. And it's through this human conditioning that we begin to build these walls of separation and create a kingdom where we have to be protected and where we feel like we're separate from everything and everybody. And so this creates fear. The world of duality is a world of fear. So that's fear is the glue that holds it together. So as a child reaches on the table and maybe grabs a cell phone, the mother says, "No." And so the baby says, "Not me? You mean I'm not one with this? Why is this so special?" And that's why the child will run back to that object to investigate. Whereas if the mother or the father or the family would say, "Oh, look here, look and see how this is. This is a cell phone. Yeah, this is and let the child hold it. You can be careful with it, you know. But and so then he doesn't have that traumatic experience. He doesn't create this story in his head that this cell phone is more important than him. But we don't do that. We usually grab things away from babies, and a lot of times we do it because we're afraid, especially if it's something that's going to break and we're afraid the baby's going to cut themselves or hurt themselves. So we may be doing it out of the right motives, but not in the right way. So it's important that we know this, and so this is how we develop this kingdom of being separate. The kingdom of self, which this being separate is the ego. And so those things that we've taken on, and maybe our parents were abusive. Maybe they did neglect us. Maybe they did, not take care of our needs. And so we cried, and nothing happens. So we create a story around that about ourselves. We make self-judgments. Or maybe our parents are in conflict, and as a child, a child will take the responsibility for that. So if the parents aren't in a healthy relationship and are in conflict or in arguments or abusive or whatever, the child takes that on as it's my fault. Somehow I did something wrong. I'm not supposed to be here. And they may try to save one or the other of the people in the conflict. So we compound these things throughout our life until they become uh, what we think is real and normal and natural. I, as a child, was uh, not a planned baby, and I came at an inopportune time for my mom and dad. And my mother, during the pregnancy, was worried about that. And I picked up on that. And the message I picked up was, I'm a mistake. I'm not supposed to be here. You know. And so I went through my life wondering if I would be loved, or if there'd be room for me. And people that do that can either become totally introverted, or they can become totally extroverted and trying to prove themselves and trying to win affection and win love. And so we create these scenarios. We set them up again to happen over and over to reinforce this negative belief and to create this fear that we have. So when we're in this, we've done this for 20 years, it becomes, we become certain that whatever that negative judgment we have about ourselves is the truth. And so this is what we, in the Costa Rica Initiative, consider the shadow. These negative beliefs, these self-judgments, repressed emotions. Yeah, let's talk about repressed emotions. In my family, it wasn't okay to be sad. Now, my mother would let me cry and be sad, but my father was not, he didn't tolerate that very much. And of course, when I was sad, what it really did, and I see now, was it made him look at his own sadness and his own injuries and his own past self-judgments and whatnot. But as a child, I didn't know that. So I've tried to prove myself in so many different ways. But in the end of it all, I would sabotage any success I had. I would try grandiose things that I wasn't capable of. And so, I continue to set this up where I reinforce the belief that no matter how hard I tried, I was never going to make it. And that the world wasn't a place in the world for me. So I don't know if you relate to any of this, but in your life, you have these shadows and these beliefs and these suppressed emotions that you've repressed all your life, and they show up in our body. Sometimes they will show up as an illness, some kind of sickness, some disease. And the reason for that is that we're neglecting to hear the message that the truth is trying to tell us. The truth is, we are the divine in human form. And everyone is. And so when we can undo all these repressed emotions, then we can live from that divinity that we are. So we've set this kingdom up, and we're separate, and we have to protect ourselves, and we have to guard ourselves, and we have to, be fearful of other people. We can't really trust them, even though we want to, and sometimes we do. We try to trust them, and they fail us, and so we can now, once we undo this, and that's what we do in the journey, is we set these, the journey's 40 meditations, 7 questions, and a couple extra exercises to help you come to the end of this repressed condition where you're trapped within this ego self. It's kind of like a prison. You're in this prison and you can't get out. So anyway, I'd like to let you comment on this, and you can send me a comment to my Facebook page or to our website, which we'll post at the end of this. Alright, so for now, that's it. Bye bye.